Hello. Going to do a quick, like double, triple confirming check of the audio really quickly because one woman show. And then we can really get going. I have like 5 photos that I use for it seems pretty good. Let's check just a tish bit. We'll just go just a tish bit quieter, just a little bit. And then we should be pretty darn good. For us to start. It should be fine. Everything should work out. Everything should work out just fine. I'm pretty sure it should be okay. Here, and we'll get going. Okay. Hi. My name is Brianna Bond, otherwise known as No Ordinary Scholar, and we are going to have a nice, fun little stream. But of course, before we get into everything, I want to go over all of the links that we have down below because we got some fun ones. Of course, we've got my books. I write those things. They're present. You can get both the first book of the Queen of Thieves series and my romance Imani and Aaliyah's fashion Bible on Itchio for free. Both of those links are down below for those I'm working on adding the rest of the series. I also have something else coming up new this coming year. Keep an eye out. But also down by those links, you're going to find several other ones. You're going to find the links for that big conglomerate of GoFundMe donation. I don't know why that's the words. Big conglomerate of GoFundMes for people in crisis zones like Haiti, Sudan, Palestine, Congo, all over. We've got all of those donation links down below. We've also got some non-Zionist graphic design programs because Canva is a Zionist graphic design program, which also for the record, that means I forgot what it was called. The art program that they just bought that everyone was super excited about, the one that is, let me look it up. You buy it once. They just acquired it. I don't know why I am completely blanking on what it's called. It's not alternative to Adobe. Affinity. Affinity was just acquired by Canva, which means that is now a Zionist organization. We love it. So I have links to particularly graphic design because that had been what I had been using Canva for. And I am still working life, mental health, physical health. Unfortunately, not going to be able to get fully divested from it this year, last day of the year. But we are still very much working on that. I still like this thumbnail, this little themes graphic. That way, this little themes graphic we did not use Canva for. We've used I'm personally using Inkscape, but I also have the link to Snapple, which is pretty much just a Canva kind clone. And I mean, if you're looking for like a drawing program, Krita is the one that I use, and I recommend that as well. And also down below is going to be, this is something I found out that I can do, but the links to it, the link under like more useful information, that is for the essentially like curation of articles and such that I gathered with some of the highlights that I did on them for this little discussion here. So you can check out those articles. I highly recommend checking out Prison Radio, as well as Rashid Johnson, I believe. Yeah, Rashid Johnson is the creator of Prison Radio, who also has a separate website with just more text articles. I highly recommend checking out both of those. Those are in that link, the Raindrop link. But without further ado, let us get started on talking about these self-immolations at Red Onion Prison. If you do not know, self-immolation is when you set yourself on fire, which is often seen as a very, very impactful means of protest, because that is not a pleasant experience, and that is something that you gotta let go on for a while for it to fully catch fire over a lot of a body. And so that is seen as a very, very serious sign of something. We'd seen self-immolations happen fairly recently as well with Aaron Bushnell in protest of the Gaza genocide. So in this case, it is people in the Supermax Red Onion prison setting themselves on fire, and it is their attempt at trying to escape the abuses of this prison. Most of the information I got from this were from Prison Radio, Rashid's other site. I also got information from Latin Times and one other interview, but those interviews were done with Rashid as well, which is why, again, I highly encourage looking at Prison Radio and his other site down below. So the first reported incident concerned Demetrius Wallace, age 27, who told the Virginia Defender he set his leg on fire on August 23rd because he knew he would have to be transported out of the prison for treatment. Since guards waited 3 days before taking Wallace to the nearest burn unit 7 hours away, he had to have a skin graft and spent 14 days in the hospital. 3 days after having been on fire before taking him to the hospital. When he returned, he told the Defender guards harassed him, denied access to his email, and stuck him in the hole. So essentially punishing him for... It's hard to even say if it's necessarily even punishing him for it, as a lot of the people who did these self-immolations did it because of the histories of abuse they were going through already. And so it's could be that they were punishing him for it. It could be that this is just... It's just astounding that literally nothing changed in any way, shape, or form after he had been on fire and not treated for 3 days. They stuck him in solitary fucking confinement. These are not isolated acts. In a span of just 2 weeks, a dozen black men at Red Onion took the same desperate measures, setting themselves ablaze. These are not acts of protest, which is, again, something very important to note. These are human beings driven to extreme lengths, simply hoping for relief from their torment. Because a lot of people, especially on social media, have been reporting this as a protest, or been reporting this as some form of political statement. These are people acting for their survival. They feel as if setting themselves on fire is better, gives them a better chance of survival than their state of being currently in the prison. Let's take a look at some of the abuses that do go on in the prison. One of the articles that had and interviews that had been done was with a Native American, Arlen Hatton, who Arlen was surprise transferred to Red Onion on October 6th, 2024, directly from a South Dakota prison. He received no prior notice or hearing to facilitate nor contest the transfer, which that itself is so inhumane and completely fucked. The idea that you can be transferred almost halfway across the country without notice and without any means of trying to fight that, it is distinctly abusive, because this is a human being that probably had connections in South Dakota, and for them to surprise be transferred again halfway across the fucking country, like, it is an act of isolating them from the connections that whatever connections they had in South Dakota. That is so wholly horrific. The idea that they're randomly transferring people such massive distances. He said he feels that he was sent to Red Onion to instill fear in him because he was not supposed to have gone there as a new admission to the Virginia prison system. And even when they had gone through all of the procedures of finding out where he should go through, Red Onion is a like max prison. He should not have been in a max prison. I think the numbering system they had was like Red Onion is like a 4-5 for 4 and 5 degree prisoners, and he was like a 3. Like, he should not have been in that prison whatsoever. So again, like, this transfer could have genuinely had no intention aside from to abuse and traumatize this person, because they shouldn't have been there. No one was notified. When he first got to the prison, he was told by counselors that they would contact his family and let them know where he was. They never did. Like, there's genuinely no reason why this transfer could have possibly, like, they weren't, so he wasn't supposed to be there. He should not, like, no process. There's no process. There's no legal or like administrative reason to have transferred him to that place in the way that they did. It is like, there's no way I can even fathom doing that aside from to abuse and traumatize him. And so Rashid thought this would be a good perspective to share, as Arlen was not from Virginia, was not from the prison, and was giving context of the abuses and everything that's going on just based on being plopped in the middle of it and just experiencing it. And one of the things that Arlen had said was that the officers lie as a matter of routine. He responded that he had seen how quickly things can and do escalate from 0 to 100 with guards at the prison. Arlen said in just the 2 months he had been at Red Onion, he'd seen guards repeatedly tear gas prisoners in the cell block for next to nothing. Many others he'd seen slammed face first to the floor or beaten while restrained from behind. Others still he'd seen attacked by groups of guards dressed out in body riot armor. He even witnessed an elderly prisoner beaten by a group of guards who just entered his cell and attacked him for no cause. And he says that, like, the way that, because things go from 0 to 100 over nothing, it induces a sense of terror, like experiencing an abusive parent. And as someone whose abusive parent was a corrections officer, yeah, I would believe all of this happened. I so easily could picture all of this happening. It's prior to the self-immolations, Rashid himself had participated in a hunger strike to protest and get sent to a different prison. Speaking with truthout.org in February, Nimeth said the only water her client, Kevin Rashid Johnson, age 53, who was also a journalist confined at Red Onion, who underwent a 2.5-month hunger strike at the beginning of the year, the only water he was allowed to drink was his cell's toilet water. And this is again talking about how how officers will try to justify some of the abuse, as well as how they'll try to incite fights and conflict between prisoners to again further justify abuse. Officials claimed I was trying to procure weapons to attack guards after they attempted to instigate conflicts between me and other prisoners by trying to put hits on me and spread false rumors that I am a pedophile, rapist, and snitch. Numerous prisoners came forward as witnesses to this to my attorneys. No weapons were recovered from me, however, so an inmate informant, Dennis Webb, was used to implicate me in all of this. In a statement he gave Red Onion investigators that I received copies of in litigation I had against Red Onion officials. And just in idea of the state of being at Red Onion, more than 2/3 of the inmates at Red Onion are held in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day, ranging from 2 weeks to 14 years. One inmate spent over 600 days in solitary confinement and was served food covered in maggots, per reporting by the Business Insider. And it's historically, scientifically proven that solitary confinement is inhumane as a practice. 2/3 of the inmates there are held in solitary confinement for the vast majority of the day. So let's talk about some of the history behind one of the specific uses of abuse in Red Onion, and that would be dogs. At Red Onion, they use dogs to intimidate and attack the prisoners, which is something that does have a very long-standing history. The sordid history of the use of animals to carry out the genocidal extermination of the native peoples of this region, like the Tainos, and to terrorize, maim, and kill black slaves across the American South is all but forgotten. The U.S. public has become so desensitized to state violence against people of color, it's using carnivorous animals to bite and rip through human muscles, tendons, nerves, and bones, and that doesn't even raise alarms. And it is to a point where they've seen, specifically again with Red Onion, a dog was attacking a prisoner, because that is what they have their dogs do, and the prisoner killed the dog, and the dog got infinite amounts of sympathy, even to the point of bonding with the police officers that put the dog in that position, as bonding with those officers over the death of this dog. And Malcolm X had once said, in terms of the victims of such barbarities, if a dog is fighting a black man, the black man should kill the dog, whether the dog is a police dog or any kind of dog. If a dog is sicked on a black man when the black man is doing nothing but trying to take advantage of what the government says it's supposed to be his, then the black man should kill that dog and any two-legged dog who sicks the dog on him. But of course, any idea of fending off attacks by dogs is unspeakable, since people of color have no right to resist or defend themselves, not even against being attacked by carnivorous animals, and we must accept that we are not worthy of being treated better than dogs. And again, when this prisoner killed the dog that had been attacking him, there had been television commercials where donations and sympathetic appeals were made and sold on behalf of neglected and abused animals like those of the ASPCA. What about the neglected and abused animals in Virginia prisons? We're not even worthy of the consideration of a dog. And naturally, the police, who lie as a matter of routine, who lie because that's how they breathe, deny the use of dogs in prison. But in contradiction of the claim that dogs aren't used to intimidate, Rick White, past warden of Virginia's notorious Red Onion State Prison, was quoted in 2023 Insider Report on uses of dogs in U.S. prisons as stating that dogs are, in fact, used frequently in Virginia prisons for presence, or in other words, the implied violence of their growls and bared teeth is sufficient to frighten people into compliance. And Business Insider was able to document this is from Insider Report, was able to document 271 dog attacks in Virginia state prisons from 2017 to 2022 through court filings and incident reports. That's from the Insider Report dated July 23rd, 2023 by Hannah Beckler, titled "Patrol Dogs Are Terrorizing and Mauling Prisoners Inside the United States." Exposing the practice has many implications, including the hidden history of widespread uses of dogs to hunt, terrorize, maul, and kill black people in slavery, including in Virginia. This practice was one of the main outbreaks that motivated the slavery abolitionist movement. And even now, it has been reported that rather than addressing any of these issues that prompt the inmates to fear the conditions so much that they would self-immolate to try and escape them, there's going to be pretty much no reform, no change, nothing, no justice. The guards, after a visit from Virginia legislator Russet Perry, are now heard to have been under orders to not take prisoners to the hospital, just to reduce the chance of anyone seeing and causing a scandal. And that is an incredibly believable act to here because that is the exact thing we saw play out with the Georgia biolab fire. People were literally given orders not to put out that fire to avoid having a big plume that would get people's attention and scrutiny. So there's also an unsurprising level of propaganda. It's also unsurprising given the propaganda campaigns that Virginia prisons have put out to avoid criticism, including a full-ass documentary. The film began with 2 dogs, 2 guards, 1 black, 1 white, escorting a handcuffed white prisoner to a solitary confinement cell. This was the first lie. I was confined at Red Onion for 14 years from when it first opened in 1998 until 2012, and several times since then up to the present. The prison, which is located on a mountain in a rural region of the state, has never had more than 3 black guards on the entire otherwise white staff, who come from segregated white communities that have no prior contact with urban blacks, and its prisoner population has always been almost totally black. This racial dynamic has always been behind the prison's notorious history of extreme racist abuse of its prisoners. This is the dynamic of history. These fabricated and opening images were meant to hide and continue throughout the documentary with the interviews of prisoners at Red Onion. 4 were white and 1 was black. Again, a dishonest representation of the actual demographic makeup of the prison's population. One of the interviewed white prisoners, Dennis Webb, whom I've known for decades and am in the block with as I write this, revealed to me that he and others were given free televisions by Red Onion's administrators for doing the interviews. It's all incredibly frustrating and nauseating and upsetting to know that all of this is going on. It's all expected behavior. The Stanford prison experiment. When did that happen? Let me look. The Stanford prison experiment was performed in 1971, August of 1971. And if you don't know what the Stanford prison experiment, they had people, were they children? Were they school? It might have been actually like students at Stanford. Just local community members were chosen at random to play either a police officer or a prisoner, or a guard and a prisoner in this simulated prison. And how long was it? The goal of the experiment had been to be like a 7 to 14 day experiment in which people were paid to portray the roles of prisoner and guard. And from there, it was pretty immediately that the people portraying the guards ended up behaving quite abusively to the people just pretending to be prisoners in this scenario, to the point where the experiment needed to be shut down early because it was starting to actually become a danger to the people involved. And like, knowing that we have, even when you remove the systemic violence and the systemic variables from the situation, we've seen how violence becomes present and how these power dynamic leads very quickly to abuse, but still just no one cares because abolition, prison, and police bias is one of the places where intersectionality really just falls, not even falls short, it just falls apart. And it is incredibly just, it is a matter of people not being able to see prisoners as humans and not being able to like kill that cop in your head that says harm, punish someone who you're told did something wrong, or who it's all incredibly frustrating and exhausting. It's frustrating and exhausting because you can't get into the nuance of it with people who won't even touch on the basic concept of actually you shouldn't be beating to death prisoners in jail. You shouldn't lock someone in a room by themselves for 23 hours and make them drink toilet water. Like the fact that we can't even get past that part means we can't get into any of the actual nuance or meaningful like threading and layers to the conversation. But it's, we'll still in our little bubble try and talk about it, which again, links to Prison Radio and Rashid's website are in the description. Go. I highly encourage checking those out. But that is all I have for right now. Oh, I didn't change tags. Oh no, that's all I have for you right now. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, Valedictions fans.